everybody. Thank you for joining us for another segment of Bringing the Zoo to You. My name is Kira and I'm one of the aquarists here at Rolling Hill Zoo, and today we're going to be talking about our 500-gallon saltwater reef tank. So here we have all the fish and all the coral that we have in the tank. As you all know, coral is an actual plant, an animal, and a mineral. So what I mean by that is what you see in coral is the tissue, and that part is consisted of polyps. That is the actual coral part of it. It also has the plant-like algae called zooxanthellae, which also gives the coral its color, and that photosynthesizes from the sunlight and to provide food for the coral as well. So during the day, the zooxanthellae will photosynthesize and create food for the coral, and at night when the light goes down, that's when the coral opens up and puts out its feeding tentacles, and then it'll filter feed through the water with the ocean currents and then just catch food from the water, and that's when the coral feeds at night. So it's actually a symbiotic relationship of coral. They're both helping each other out, both survive. The calcium, or the mineral part of coral, is calcium, and that's the skeleton of the coral. So each coral makes a different type of skeleton. Some are soft tissue coral and some are more calcium carbonate. And if you can see here, that is a galaxia coral, and each one of those is a polyp, but that whole rock formation is actually called a colony. So right now what you're seeing is the polyps. If you were to look at just the skeleton portion of this exact coral, this is what it would look like with just the skeleton. So these are all hard pieces of the skeleton of the galaxia, and this is calcium carbonate. And so it is hard and it's spiky, and you can see the different parts of it. And each one of these little nubs would be where the polyps would come out of the skeleton. So, and as you can see, here's the bottom of it, and like all the little tubular where it grows. And this once started as a little fragment piece just growing on a rock, and it expanded to all of this. So since we mimic ocean water, the chemistry of ocean water in a tank, we provide the different essential elements that a coral would need from the ocean, from the water. So we put in different chemicals such as magnesium, calcium carbonate, and 2 different parts of calcium chloride and sulfate, and that all helps the coral grow and just expand. This coral right here is considered a branching coral, which means it will branch off into different segments of it. So all of that is one coral, but then they each have different polyps that branch off from a singular one. As you can see, maybe with this one, this is called green star polyp. Hard to see. This is actually an encrusting coral where it'll grow on a mat and just grow over anything that it comes into contact with. So if you are able to see some of the pink matting behind it, that's what the polyp grows out of that. So it makes a little encrusting mat, and then the polyps grow from that. So that's another way that coral grow. There's a process called fragmenting on coral, and that's cutting a piece off of the coral and either gluing it or rubber banding it to a rock, and that will create a whole nother coral. So that's what a lot of aquariums out right now are doing to prevent the extinction of coral all over the world. So that's what this little piece is right here. It's a fragment of a piece that we cut off from the larger mother colony, and then it'll just grow like that. These are our anemones. They're similar, but they're only an animal. So these guys will actually eat only meaty food. So what we feed them here is fish, shrimp, just any type of shellfish or just any type of fish pieces. And they actually have a mouth in the center And it'll use the tentacles to grab onto the food and then bring it to the middle of its mouth. And so usually on the tentacles, they have a stinging cells. But the reason why they're not stinging all the other anemones around it is because they have all split from one anemone. So technically they recognize each other because they're the same, but they did a process what they call asexual reproduction. So they just split off from one another, and then they can populate that way. Since the ocean is so vast, it's hard to find another anemone or coral that's close enough to each other. So they just split off and reproduce that way. Another way that coral also reproduce is sexually. So there are female and male types of coral. You don't really know until they actually spawn, and they do spawn eggs and sperm, and they'll just bubble up to the center or the tip of the coral, and then they'll just float to the surface of the water, and then they'll just try to mix there and then combine, and then just like everything else, they'll sink to the bottom, attach to something, and then slowly just grow from there. It's very interesting just the way coral grows and just splits. When I first started here 5 years ago, all of these corals were really small, and it's just been a real fun process just watching them grow and get so big and be able to propagate them and frag them and just really spread the knowledge of our coral. So if you guys have any comments, feel free to comment below in the section, and we'll get back to you with all your answers. Thank you for watching.